That was the moment Israeli soldiers boarded a boat in the Mediterranean on Wednesday night, breaking up the latest convoy of ships headed to Gaza as part of the Global Sumud Flotilla. Now, we've witnessed this before. Last October, the first convoy of the Global Sumud Flotilla was intercepted by Israeli forces in international waters as it approached Gaza, with more than 470 people on board the ships detained by the military and kidnapped to prisons in Israel. But what happened last night isn't simply a rerun of what happened last year. That's because whilst this interception also happened in international waters, the boats were hundreds of miles away from Gaza. Of course, Israel is no stranger to flouting international law, whether it's Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, or Iran. The country has rarely met an international treaty or convention it hasn't immediately broken, and now it's apparently coming for maritime law. Earlier this month, 39 boats belonging to the Global Sumud Flotilla departed from Barcelona en route to Gaza, where those on board would once again attempt to break Israel's siege of the enclave. More than 70 vessels were expected to take part, with other ships joining along the way. And over the last 3 weeks, the flotilla made good progress, departing Barcelona mid-April before reaching Sicily last week, where they docked for a short period. Earlier this week, they set sail once again, reaching the western side of Crete on Wednesday evening. And it's there that Israel intercepted some of those boats overnight. It began with bright searchlights and a warning.
Where the aid will undergo a security inspection and will subsequently be transferred to the Gaza Strip. You're required to change your course. Any further attempt to sail toward Gaza places your safety at risk and leaves the IDF no choice but to take all necessary measures at its disposal to enforce the lawful maritime security blockade.
Later, the attacks began, involving drones, speedboats, and at least one more ship.
We have a killer military vessel very, very close to us. They've turned their lights off and we're all sat in the cockpit with our hands up waiting for interception now.
Hi, we were currently halfway through a naval disruption mission and it appears that we have been interrupted with an interception from an unknown entity. We have had boats that have reported being surrounded by unknown vessels. We've had flares set off. We've had high drone activity. As a flotilla, we have activated all safety protocols and we are now preparing for interception. If we go silent, this is why we have been intercepted. Please keep tracking us, condemn Israel, condemn anyone that you can to bring us back home safely and keep an eye on us.
Novara Media, Charlotte, England, has reported on the interception, writing this. Of 57 boats at sea, 22 are believed to have been intercepted in the attack, which began at around 11 p.m. local time. 35 others escaped interception, with many sailing into Greek territorial waters. Around 170 participants are believed to have been detained and are likely being taken to Israel, several days' sail away. Others were left stranded at sea, their boats heavily damaged, unable to communicate with organisers or the Coast Guard, and in the path of an oncoming storm. In a statement, GSF described the situation as a calculated death trap. After smashing engines and destroying navigation arrays, the military retreated, intentionally leaving hundreds of civilians stranded on powerless, broken vessels, directly in the path of a massive approaching storm, the group said. One of those who escaped the interception is Jessie Aletta Van Schaik, who told TWT what happened.
So around 6 p.m. UTC, which is the time we use at sea, we started seeing many lights. It was exactly when the sky turned dark, and we are.
Yeah, I said, yeah. One of these who escaped. Yeah, TRT. One of those who escaped the interception is Jessie Aletta Van Schaik, who told TRT what happened.
So around 6 p.m. UTC, which is the time we use at sea, we started seeing many lights. It was exactly when the sky turned dark, and we are trained for it because we've been followed by drones now for the last few days. But usually the drones are just high up; they're only watching us but not doing much. But this time we saw many drones, and we also saw a military vessel at sea passing by us with very big flashlights. So we saw first a dark vessel approaching, then suddenly the lights went on. We saw drones going up in the sky, and then basically the rest of the night it was like watching the whole sky and watching boats nearby. And yeah, I've never seen both so many stars and so many drones in my life, I think. And it was all the time looking like, is a light flickering? Is it a star? When it's moving, is it following us? And usually it was following us. So when the boat turned, the drones turned with us, basically. Yeah, it's completely ridiculous. Like, we're 600 nautical miles away from Gaza. We're between Italy and Greece. Every boat passed by here. And the fact that they, like, already international waters in general is ridiculous. But this is also 600 miles away. How dare they to do this? Like, every time they go further. It's not just one small attack, which would already be ridiculous, but they intercepted 22 boats, illegally kidnapped 22 boats with humanitarian aid on board. And the fact that the international community so far has been completely silent is both scandalous, but it doesn't surprise me at all. The international community has been silencing and has been disappointing and has been complicit for like the last 2 years. So I'm not surprised that they don't do anything right now, but I do demand that they do everything they can to stop this and to protect us from being attacked again.
After the interception, Israel's foreign ministry posted this. The driving force behind the flotilla provocation is Hamas, joining hands with professional provocateurs, with the aim of sabotaging President Trump's peace plan transition to its second phase and intended to divert attention from Hamas's refusal to disarm. Israel is committed to the freedom of navigation. Due to the large numbers of vessels participating in the flotilla and the risk of escalation, and the need to prevent the breach of a lawful blockade, an early action was required in accordance with international law. The operation was carried out in international waters peacefully and without any casualties. An initial inspection of the vessels revealed materials that appear to be drugs and contraceptives. This flotilla is another PR stunt without humanitarian aid. These are professional provocateurs on a pleasure cruise. A condom flotilla, nothing more, nothing less. Now, okay, bit weird that they're going to call it a condom flotilla, but nevertheless. Now, later, Israel's foreign minister Gideon Saar said this. So far, Israel, through the IDF, has successfully blocked attempts to breach the lawful naval blockade on Gaza and the arrival of vessels from the provocative flotilla, including last night. All participants in the provocative flotilla who were taken off the vessels were taken off unharmed. In coordination with the Greek government, the individuals transferred from the flotilla vessels to the Israeli vessel will be disembarked on a Greek beach in the coming hours. We thank the Greek government for its willingness to receive the flotilla participants. We call on anyone who is not interested in provocations but rather in humanitarian aid to Gaza to do so through the BOP, which also issued a statement on the matter today. Israel will not allow the breach of the lawful naval blockade on Gaza. If they're dropped off on a Greek beach in the coming hours, as Saar says, they will be, that means the flotilla participants, sailors in international waters, they will have been held by Israeli forces without warrant or reason for coming up for 24 hours. Now, Saar also referred to a statement from US President Donald Trump's Board of Peace there. This is part of what they said. The flotilla heading to Gaza is the performative love boat activism of people who know nothing of and care even less for the condition of Gazans. It is distasteful to trade on the misery of people to build your social media profiles. For those actually wanting to help Gaza, here is a suggestion. Use whatever influence you have to maintain the pressure on Hamas so they fulfill their obligations to pave the way forward for the communities they destroyed. If we'd like to contribute to the recovery, we welcome support through established humanitarian channels coordinated by the Board of Peace, the United Nations and the World Bank, so that your contributions reach those who deserve and need our aid. Now, Israel's interception of boats in the middle of the Mediterranean, hundreds of miles away from its territory, has shocked some. This was from UN Special Reporter Francesca Albanese. Alarm, how on earth it is possible that Israel is allowed to assault and seize vessels in international waters just off Greece/Europe. Besides, what you can think of apartheid Israel and its genocidal leaders, this should send shockwaves across Europe. Apartheid without borders. There's been some reaction from European leaders, but it's been fairly muted. Italy's Giorgia Meloni has condemned the interception and demanded the release of, quote, all the unlawfully detained Italians. She also called on Israel to show, quote, full respect of international law and guarantees on the physical safety of people on board. And the EU's foreign affairs spokesperson has issued a similar call. But most countries have said nothing at all. Nothing at all. Of course, just like they said nothing about the previous flotillas. Banseka, this is a step further than what we've seen before from Israel, but not to be surprising, if anything can be surprising for what Israel does nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, there's no repercussions for anything they do, so why would they not not to make the metaphor too exact, but push the boat out further. Why would they not allow themselves to encroach further into international waters and go even further than they have done with previous flotillas? There's zero consequences. You can do what you like when there's no other repercussions, right? Strikes me as kind of highly disproportionate. Not really buying that the flotilla is Hamas, but also loves condoms. That's quite a strange sort of like collection of things together. It's very, very thin, if you ask me. And also the idea that that sort of activists on the flotilla are just kind of selfish people trying to build their own social media profiles. Again, not really very convincing if it's not garnering much attention. I think most influencers are quite attuned to the attention economy. You probably go and do something else if you want to really garner social media, a bigger social media profile for you. So very, very bizarre. And it really is the idea that they've been able to do this so far out into these international waters does kind of bring home, I think, the way in which this issue with Israel and a rogue state that is able to act with no restraint will become our problem. We can see that stretching further and further. It stretched further out, obviously, into Iran and other parts of the Middle East. Now they're able to do these actions in international waters that are not part of their territory. So we can see that this is also a question of our own sovereignty, and it's a question of our own control. Can we also control what happens to us and around us and where we live as well? So these issues, which we might think of as very far away in Gaza or in the Middle East, they're kind of coming home to roost a little bit as well. And I think this is one of those stories. It's a small story. Don't want to overplay what's happened here, but at the same time, it does kind of represent this kind of greater encroaching on perhaps our own sovereignty here as well. It's all linked.
100%. I absolutely agree. People keep telling me, why do you care so much what's happening in the Middle East? I'm like, it has repercussions across the world.
Absolutely.
One singular state being allowed to flaunt every treaty, every single piece of international law over and over and over again. It just sends the message broadly to the international community that if they don't care about it, why should anybody else care about it, right? It's their only standards if everyone can be held to them.